My channel. Today we're going to look at this field right here that I created called due date. Its value is right here is due date, and what we want to do is we're going to do a scenario today where the client said, hey, we want this due date to be something that is scheduled, but it can't be scheduled no more than 10 days in advance. So 10 days more than the actual current date that is available. So what we're going to do is do a client script and put some restrictions on this date. As you can see now, there's no restrictions on the date. I can go anywhere from the next month to scheduling this due date. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is right click here on the incident form, and we're going to go to configure, and we're going to go to client script. All right. Next thing we're going to do is going to go to new, and we're going to give this name due date no more than 10 days in advance. And we're going to keep the table as incident. The UI type, I like to go ahead and make this an all. And then the type, which is the field that we're going to be using. Actually, the type that we're going to be using is an on change. What we're going to do with the validation is that anytime that someone changes the field for the due date, we want to validate it. So right now we're going to choose on change, and then the field name that we're going to go ahead and do is called due date. So you'll see two field names here. This one is the one that I created here because both are capitalized. The due and the date are capitalized. Within ServiceNow, the standard that you'll notice is that the first word is capitalized and the second word is lowercase, as you can see here with the configure item and correlation display. So this one right here, due date, we see that due is capitalized, but the second word date is not. So this is the user generated one. So we're not going to use that one. We're going to use the one that I created. And then we're going to go ahead and leave description and messages empty. So we're going to start a script right here below from the comment that they created. And we're going to use the date object to get the current date, which is today's date. So I'm going to go ahead and do a variable and name it today date. And I'm going to get the current date. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the value of whatever the user inputted into the due date field on the incident form. We want to go ahead and get that value so we can use that for evaluation purposes. So we're going to do a variable called due. That's just user. So due date, and we're going to say new date. And we're going to do a G form. So we're going to go to the form and we're going to get the value of a date field. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take whatever today's date is. Today is currently October 3rd, and we're going to add 10 days to it. Since our requirement says that it cannot be no more than 10 days in advance, we're going to go ahead and just take the date, current date, and we're going to set it 10 days into the future. So 10 days into the future from today, which is October 3rd, will be October 13th. So anything that is chosen in the form for the due date that is beyond October 13th is going to trigger our error message. So let's go ahead and set the date into the future. So we're going to say today date, and we're going to say set date, and we're going to say today date dot get date. So we're going to get the date of today, And then we're going to say plus 10. So went ahead and added 10 days to that date and set it. All right. So next thing we're going to do is an if statement. And in an if statement, we're going to do our evaluation. So we're going to say that, hey, the due date, whatever the due date is that is selected, is it greater than our our today's date plus 10? And then that will give us where we will clear the form. We'll say, hey, if it's greater than October 13th, then we're going to clear the form. We're going to give an error message and say, hey, this is an invalid date. And we're going to set return a false at the end. So let's do our evaluation. So we're going to say if, in our parentheses, we're going to say if the due date, dot get time, here, is greater than, if the due date is greater than today date, dot get time, then we are going to go on to the form. We're going to say G underscore form dot clear the date. We don't even want the user to do anything with that date. You want them to get rid of it immediately. We don't want them trying to submit it with that invalid date. And we're going to clear the variable, which is called due date. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do on the form show field message. And what we're going to do is show field message is basically going to go right underneath the variable that you are working with, which is the due date. And it's going to put an error message right below there specifically for that. So we're just going to ahead and say for the variable, which is the due date. And then we're going to say invalid, invalid date, due date cannot exceed 10 days. And let's say error. All right, and then we're going to return false. All right. So now that we have everything set up, we got our current date, we have pulled in the date that the user selected for the field name due date, and now we're going through, we set our current date to 10 days in the future, and we evaluated our due date that was pulled from the form against the future date, and we checked and see if it is greater than. If it is greater than, we're going to get an error message. If it is not, we're not going to get anything. So let's go ahead and submit this. And then we're going to go back to the incident table, and we're going to open up an incident. And right now we have a due date that was set on the 7th, so we don't have any error message right now. We can go ahead and go to the 5th and just make sure that our code is working correctly. So 10 days, like I said, today is October the 3rd. 10 days from now is October the 13th. If we go to October the 13th, we should not get any error message, but let's just go a day ahead, day 11. And now you see that it says invalid date, due date cannot exceed 10 days. And if you remember that piece of code that I put at the end of the show field message, there was a error value that I put at the end that will give you this nice little red colored warning message here to really alert the user that, hey, this is an invalid date. So we go ahead and even further. All right. And if we go back to the fourth, we see everything is good. So that was a quick display of doing a client script on a field using a date field. Hopefully this helped you out. I'll make more videos, and thank you. If you like and subscribe, please comment on what you think of the content so far, and see you on the next one. Thanks.